What's going on, everybody? It's David Palmer, the Leo King, and this is my show, Uncut Astrology, where I take off the mask and go deep behind the veil and give you this week's astrological forecast for the week of August the 3rd through the 9th of 2016. And make sure you get my horoscopes every day. That's right, I do horoscopes every day on video, text message notifications. It's all at theleokingapp.com, or go to your iPhone or Android store and download and subscribe to the app. And of course, every week I give away a free reading for a random person that shares this video on my Facebook. So go to David Lawrence Palmer or the Leo King Facebook, share the video. I pick one person a week and I give away a free reading, and I write it on the back of the actual card that I write all the transits on, and write it down, and I'll reach out to you for your birthday if you are a winner. And Hope in the Desert is coming up almost a month away. September 9th through the 11th out in Las Vegas. You can do 1 or 3 days available for an awesome astrology conference that I'm doing. Please come out there. I have a lot of information out at leokingevents.com. Now, here we are. We are out of Mars in Scorpio finally. Woo! Now, this is good news, because if you watched last week's Uncut, or if you've been following the astrology, or if you just have never followed astrology and you're watching this video for the first time, if you're looking at your life, you know you're at a major turning point right now. And this turning point is getting that old last 3 to 4 years off your back and really finally progressing into where you want to go in your life. Now, what's really interesting to me is now that Mars is in Sagittarius, and now that we just had this new moon in Leo, we're now entering into eclipse season. That's because in 2 weeks we're going to have a lunar eclipse. What's actually going to be a pre-numeral new lunar eclipse. It's not going to be an exact lunar eclipse, but technically it is one. And when we have these rare eclipses happen, we are in a very, what I like to call, faded energy and moment where things and chapters extremely change. Now, it's a portal, basically. And so we've started it. And this week, there's a lot going on in the astrology. Right when we come out of the gate of the new moon in Leo, right when we come out of the gate of Mars coming into Sagittarius, we're ready to really blast forward in our lives. But I think it's important to really process a lot that's going on, because I think this is going to be rapid fire. I think that this is a lot happening to people rather fast. Because when you get out of that Scorpio energy, it's like you want to run out of jail. But the good news is you've transformed. You know, Scorpio is very humbling. And now we're kind of coming out of being humbled and ready to be rock stars. And when you are ready to be a rock star, sometimes it's exciting at first. And if you ever watch the movie Rockstar, he kind of falls apart, at the end, and then turns down the wrong road and so forth. So we got to make sure that we maintain our bearings now as we're all coming out of kind of dark energy and becoming rock stars. But there is that fear that is lingering behind. Whenever you leave a major transit, especially an ending of Scorpio like that, you keep looking over your shoulder like, is something bad going to happen? Am I going to be fearful again? Am I going to be scared again? No. That's the residue, and that's kind of the PTSD of whatever's happened. But just realize that as you're coming into this positive energy, that there's going to be so much bright light and positivity coming your way. It's like the farther you keep following that, the further that kind of residue will retract off of you. Coming into the transit, so this week, Venus is going to finish in Leo. We're going to have the moon and Venus in Leo. It's beautiful. It's just really harmonious, really lovely after a new moon, and that's going to be on Wednesday. Just this really beautiful connection with relationships, trining Uranus, this excitement of new projects, new relationships in our life, love, happiness, and really ready to move forward. And I think the official feeling of moving forward into a new life is Wednesday, because of the new moon with that moon finally conjuncting Venus, which has just gone through a very interesting transit and is now getting ready to start really being that evening star. What I think is even more interesting, though, is we have Mercury in Virgo as well. So things are really speeding up fast, and life is changing, right? When Mercury's in Virgo, its natural home, and wants to change life. It wants to make things happen. It's like the concrete truck stirring. It also is the harvester. So you start harvesting. It's like where you gather the things in your life that you want to create. But this week, we also have Venus, which will enter into Virgo, which is at its fall position, which means it's not its greatest position, okay? So when it comes to relationships, when it comes to projects, there's a lot of things stirring. But man, when Venus comes into Virgo, we can get nitpicky. We can get very We want things to happen a certain way. And unfortunately, I think especially with Saturn in the mix, while Mercury's going to square Saturn this week, as we're getting ready for Saturn to start stationing, this is all about, well, there's a lot of things and excitement that can happen, but it's going to take some time. Be willing, be accepting of that. Mars is going to also be squared by Venus this week, which is really jumping into things at full force, really exciting things, but yet, man, it's maybe there's little things that aren't lining up for the big things that you want, or there's a lot of little things you need to put together to make a big thing happen, right? So maybe you jump into a new relationship, but there's a lot of little things you got to figure out in order to make the big things really happen. Or maybe you're in a new project and it's really grand and great and finally the door's open, but man, there's so many pieces in the project to put together, it's going to take a long time. Saturn is going to be in the middle of us for a while because next week Saturn goes direct. So Saturn is starting to station, it's starting to slow down, and this is when time slows down. But yet here's Mercury in its natural sign wanting to go really fast. Here's Mars squaring Venus wanting to get whatever it wants really fast, very intense. Here's this new moon that just happened. We want to live, we want to be rock stars, right, baby? You want to be a rock star now? There's work to do. The other aspect is Mercury is opposing Neptune this week. It's squaring Saturn. So there's too many details that need to really look at the long term, maybe a cold, hard reality check. And then the other half is you might not know how all the pieces are going to come together. And you're just going to have some blind faith. You're going to have to watch the universe and God kind of put these things together. The good news in all of this, if I kind of back up everything from where we just have gone over, is great things are happening. Just, man, it's going to take work. It's going to take some blind faith. You're not going to have all the answers that you want, and that might be a little bit frustrating, but hey, you're not in the jail cell anymore. The universe is starting to supply beautiful and wonderful and amazing things and positive things and love and creation. It takes time. There's this impatient aspect that could come where it's frustration, right? Saturn rules frustration, especially in Sagittarius, the frustration that the adventure can't be at full limit. It's we need to slowly get there, Actually, if you think about it, if a rocket ship was to go into space, the way that we got to the moon it wasn't like the rocket ship just went to space, it went the orbit, right? And then it broke apart, and then it had to get the lander, and then it pulled the lander out, and then the lander had to go all the way to the moon, and then it had to revolve around the moon. It takes a minute to get where you gotta go, to get these big things happen in your life that you want. This is the moment where everything is really going. We're lighting up with the tires, baby. The NASCAR engine's revving up. Vroom, vroom. But, we got a long race in front of us. And this is a long one. The other aspect is so much Virgo this week. Mercury, Jupiter's coming out of its shadow period. We're going to talk about that in a second. Venus is in Virgo. North Node of Virgo, and the moon will be in Virgo. So there'll be all these 5 energies in Virgo. So reality's shifting this week. And in this reality shift, accept that it's great and the rock star that you're becoming a rock star in this new found life. Sure, it might not be at completion to where you want it to go, but appreciate that you're able to begin this new journey, begin this new change, begin this new reality shift. And that part of the fun is figuring it out. It's kind of like the game Clue a little bit. Make it fun. This can be really fun, not frustrating. This could be very fun for, it's like the game Risk, too. It's where, I'm playing old 80s games now, but it's you're really setting up your pieces. This is chess, and really figuring out how to really set up your board right now. Because it's almost like a whole new world has developed. You've gotten a reset on the board, and it's really exciting because I feel like we all got kind of in weird games and we kind of felt we were in stalemate for a long time. Or we felt like we were in check forever, and every move we made was oh God, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. Now, I know some people out there probably don't even understand chess, but we are moving out of these positions and moving into a place where things are open, but they just are going to take a lot of work to make them happen. They're going to take, Mars is now back in Sagittarius. It's ready to go adventure, but Saturn's there. Go look up in the stars. You'll see Mars red right by the star Antares, and right over there by Saturn, you'll see them. And so Mars is coming into a big, humbling lesson. Plus, if you follow the eclipses over the next month, Saturn's going to be in the middle of them. We're going to have a big solar eclipse square Saturn. We're getting ready for so much to square Saturn. We're getting ready for Venus next week to square Saturn. So with Mercury this week squaring Saturn, don't be depressed. Realize the work, have the faith, and then move forward. Your reality's changing. Make this fun. Make this exciting. The sun's still in Leo, folks. We're not even halfway through it until this week. So we got a lot of love to experience, a lot of positivity, and the Leo light is really on, and really enjoy it. Don't forget to enjoy it. Now, Jupiter leaving station, which means Jupiter went retrograde in January in the exact position where it finally has reached now. So Jupiter moving forward means extreme big doors opening, but yet it is happening in the sign of Virgo. So this is, of course, our reality is changing. Just, it's definitely more of your day-to-day life changing, whole reality shifting, much more of like finding a routine, a rhythm that you want in your life changing. And I think a lot of it is relationship based, with Venus coming out of its 1 year transit, where Venus went retrograde last year in Virgo at 0 degrees. It reaches that spot this week. Now, of course, it reached that spot last year, but I always follow the next time that Venus comes over the spot of where it retrograded is exactly when a major relationship transit's going to happen. This week, extremely, especially with positive aspects. I would say that much more positive, much more development, also with creation, money, projects, work-related things really blossoming, moving forward. Now, even though it's at fall in Virgo, I think that this is good because Jupiter's here, the North Node's here. The universe is having us work on this, which is like, let's get to the nitty gritty. Let's get specific. Let's get what we really want here. The problem with Venus and Pisces, even though it's at its exaltation, is, man, we can really want everything. We really want all the things. We're compassionate and we love all things. We like all the jobs. But at the end of the day, Venus and Virgo is like, I don't want that job. That's a gross job. I don't want that. It's like, oh, I don't know if I want that person. I don't like their pheromones. I don't like the way they dress. Well, you know what? This is a time where it's like you're really narrowing down on what you really like, what you really want. And with Mars squaring it all, this week's going to be hot and heavy on things, pushing things. And just make sure that you're realizing the long term, that if you're expecting a full return right away, it's not going to happen this week. Or you're expecting it to all go exactly the way you want to right away, it's not going to happen. And that could bring up frustration. But other than that, exciting week. Mercury by the end of the week is going to, as we come into the 8th and 9th when Jupiter comes out of shadow, that's going to be this really rare moment. And I feel from the 3rd to the 8th is a little portal of relationship aspect, really explosions happening with projects and creation and beauty. But then from the 8th until Saturn comes direct on the 12th and 13th, that little window is going to be a very serious moment in your life where you're making very big decisions. You're getting ready to board a major train in your life, and we'll talk about that next week. But that's because Jupiter is now going forward out of shadow, and then Saturn will be going direct. So both of these together, that's happening at that period, that 8th to the 12th, is going to be huge, and that's going to be what we're going to talk about next week. But by the end of this week, as we come to that 8th and 9th, Mercury opposing Neptune and conjuncting the nodes. And so we really have to become clear on what is going to really work in our life and what is not going to work and what is more fantasy than reality. And we really need to become clear on that. There's going to be a lot of things that came through the week prior, right? Like through the 3rd through the 8th of like, well, what happened? Like what can be created? Can this really work? And I think with Mercury on the North Node, it's time to you got to make a call, make its reality, or you need to face head on what are the things that are not going to work, that are going to fall apart, or just not going to be reality, and what's it going to take to get there. This is a time where you can really create whatever you want with all this energy in Virgo. You're not going to see a lot like this until we get to the eclipses, but this is an overload, folks. This is extremely powerful, and this is a lot of intensity with Mars square Venus, with Mercury square Saturn, with Mercury opposed this and a T-square. Understanding it all might not be so easy, and the frustration around that might be grand, but at the end of the day, you are a rock star entering into a new concert, and this is your first show. We're all gonna be really excited for it, but at the same token, we're afraid of if we're gonna fall, if something's gonna go wrong. It's all gonna work out just grand. Take it one step at a time and one show at a time. Thank you so much for all your support. Truly appreciate it. Make sure that you check me out, the Leo King app, to get my horoscopes every day. And of course, my big August webinar or my August horoscope is available at inclusiveastrology.com. Thank you so much for all the support. I truly appreciate it. And for sharing this video. I really hope that it helped you. Really hope that it is helping you, these videos. It means the world to me that you support me, and thank you for subscribing here on my YouTube. I appreciate you, and I will see you next week.